Hey, this is the Daily Overpass. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now today, let's talk about becoming the person we need to become. Alright, so I'm a bit of a late bloomer when it comes to business. So if you don't know my background, I was in, when I got out of high school, my grades were not very good. I went into the US Army. I was a linguist. I was a Chinese linguist. I was in there for 4 years. I got out. I went to university in the States and got my degree in history because I was going to be a history teacher. And then soon after that, I moved out to England and I got into IT. Then I became a software developer as an employee for a few years. And then when I turned 30, or just after I turned 30, I started Overpass. I started my own company. This was the first time I really started to think, it was a few years before that where I started thinking, I would like to have my own company. I would like to get into business. I would like to take a little bit more control of my life. So at the age of, it was about 31, 32 where Overpass officially started as a limited company. It was a few years before that where it was kind of just, the pipe dreams and all that kind of stuff. One day, it wouldn't be really cool if I could do that and everything. And that's pretty late considering a lot of other people out there. I know there's a lot of you guys out there who are much younger, at that time. And even then, so between 30 and 40, mostly what I did, I had my company, but mostly what I did was I set up the website, I got the business cards, and I would occasionally go out and try to find clients. But mostly what I did was I took on contracts. And as an IT contract, because I was very highly skilled, so recruitment agents would go out and they would find the jobs for me, and then I would just I'd take on a contract for 3 months or 6 months, never longer than 6 months. I was offered a lot longer than 6 months, but I would never take it because I needed to get back to Overpass and do my own thing, right? So, and working a contract it wasn't really what I wanted to do in the end, because it wasn't full control. It was still getting up in the morning, going into an office, working at a desk, and doing all the kind of things. It was like being an employee, except you were paid a lot more, and you didn't have the security. And it wasn't that much security, but it was like every 6 months or 3 months when a contract ended, then you had to think about what am I going to do after this if they don't renew. Fortunately, most of the time they renewed, but I was always in a position where I was ready to move on, and most of the time I would get bored at the job and then I would move on. So that was my whole thing. And it wasn't until after I turned 40 that I really took the plunge and I started with the apps and started going out and bringing in clients, quit all the contracts that I had, swore off contracting and living on a day-to-day business with the, bringing in, taking the cap off the top of what I could earn, but also taking the cap off the bottom of what I could earn, right? So, part of me, a lot of people who are younger than me, I look at them, so I'm at the age now at 45 where when I see somebody successful in business, I always like to think, I wonder how old they were when they started that. How old was so-and-so when they did this, all this kind of stuff, because I'm thinking, how much more time do I have on the clock? But there's no way of really knowing, right? So part of me looks at younger people who are just starting out when they're really young, in their early 20s or maybe even late teens, and they don't have a mortgage, they don't have kids, they don't have a spouse, they don't have all the worries and everything like that. They can just focus 100% on building the business, whereas, of course, with me, I had all of these other responsibilities I had to tend to, and there's a lot of other people like that out there that we can't fully jump into it 100%, right? So part of me is a bit jealous of that, but then part of me thinks, I wouldn't trade any of that for the world, right? I couldn't imagine going through life and not knowing what it was like to deal with office politics, right? Or knowing what it's like to be sitting at the kitchen table and think, oh my God, I really messed up here. How are we going to afford to get through the next month, right? Or, you have the financial problems and the family problems and all that kind of stuff, right? And I can look at those back now with a bit of fondness because they're over. The reason that they were a big struggle at the time, because you had no idea when they were going to end. Right? Like if you've ever been out of work for say a couple months, 2 or 3 months, and then you take on a new job. For me, if I'm out of work for a few months and I take on a new job, I always think, God, I wish I'd taken a vacation during that time. I wish I'd gone somewhere. I wish I'd done something. But the fact of the matter is that during that 3 months, I didn't know it was a 3-month period, right? You just kind of going from the next thing to the next thing. You were going through the struggles. Right, so I couldn't imagine what it'd be like to not go through those struggles now that I've gone through them, right? So, you know, the thing about these struggles is they always seem to end, but at the time you don't know whether or not they're going to end at all or not. So, right. The reason I bring this up is like this kind of archetype in business. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I read a lot of books, and there's this archetype of the born entrepreneur. This person who, you know, when I was, I had a lemonade stand when I was 4 years old. Well, I had one when I was 3 years old, and everybody's trying to fight over, how early they started. And the thing that bothers me about it is it creates this myth of predestination. Like, I was destined to be, I was preordained to be an entrepreneur because when I was 2, I sold rattles to all the other kids at the nursery or whatever, right? And it's something that I don't necessarily believe in. I think, we all become the person we have to be when we do the stuff we want to do. Now, I didn't have a lemonade stand as a kid. I think I may have had a lemonade stand for like an afternoon where I may have done something because I saw a Little Rascals episode. I'm not that old, it was a rerun. But I may have had one, but it wasn't like, I don't think that made me an entrepreneur. And even like in my early 20s, that was not the kind of thing that I was thinking about. I was just thinking, I want to have a nice job, I want to be comfortable, I want to have a nice house. I want to raise a family, all that kind of stuff. And it was later on I started thinking about the, getting into business and all this kind of stuff, right? And when I say that the struggles, I wouldn't trade those for the world because they made me the person that I am. And I say that, the thing about these struggles is that they always come to an end. Everything works out, it always does. That's what people say. These things work out, they always do. But the thing is, they don't work out because of some sort of magic or because that's just the way the universe works. Most of the time, the struggles we go through, they work out because we become better people as we go through them. So like if you're dealing with financial problems, then you resolve to like, I'm never going to be in this kind of situation again. I'm going to take on a better job. I'm going to go out and take on some freelance work or whatever. And you start to build the person that you want to be, right? There's a really good quote by Jim Rohn, one of my favorite quotes, which is, don't wish that it were easier, wish that you were better, right? And occasionally I read stories or read books about people who've gone to prison. Like I was reading Jordan Belfort's book. He didn't talk about going to a prison, but specifically, but I thought, what must it be like? Because I think if I had to go to prison, I know I would just, there's no way I could do it, right? I know that I would be abused, like, from day one. There's no way I would do it. I'm too soft. I just couldn't do it, right? But then I think, actually, those people who go to prison, the person they come out as is completely different, right? It's the same as when you have kids. When you have kids, you think, there's no way I could be a father. I have no idea what I'm doing. I can't even take care of my own life. But then, you grow, you become the father as you go through the process, right? The same, I remember going into the Army and I think, there's no way I could be a soldier. Like these guys are really good. There's no way I could do that. But then, you go through it and you become that person. Now, I think about this with the app market too. I mean, the app market and making money through apps, it's hard, and it gets harder all the time. The more apps that go in there, the more resourceful we have to become. I mean, I have to always kind of think about how can I get my apps in front of more people, and not so much, why is the system failing me, but thinking, how can I change and become better at using the system? Anyway, if the keyword algorithms are changing, how can I alter things to do that? And it's different on an app-by-app basis. So my point today is that for those of you who were like me in the beginning or like me now with other things, who you don't think you're up to starting on a new project, to starting on the business, to starting and doing a YouTube channels or whatever like that, right? Is that people aren't preordained to do these kind of things. You're not one type of person or another. You become the person that you need to become based on the struggles that you go through. At least that's the way I've always thought, and that's the way, over my many years of experience, that's what I've found. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. Sorry for rambling on a little bit long again today. That's it for today. I'll talk to you tomorrow.